So we've got 10 acres out here in Judith Gap, Montana. My name is Miles McLaughlin with Wilco Land. This is about the third video I've made on this property. I'm learning new things about it every single week listing it. It's one of our most popular listings. In this video, I'm going to talk about access first and foremost. I'm going to dive into access here in a minute or two, really go into detail about what we know. I've done some homework on that. We have some easement paperwork. We've talked with one of the neighbors. So I want to share all that information and really go into a deep dive surrounding access here because, this property is located in a world-class location. It's in the Judith Gap Range. It's adjacent to the Big Snowy Wilderness, to Lewis and Clark National Forest. We're looking at real photos of the property here. This is one of my favorite listings we've had come in here. There's only like 10 properties that exist that are like this one. And frankly, this is a pretty rare land investment. You're just not going to see 10 acres come for sale in this mountain range in Montana here. It's probably one of the best elk habitats and elk hunting areas in the entire country. So you can see one of the neighbors using their property with a yurt. There's like a 2-track going back there. It is ATV/UTV access to get back to these properties. This is a Forest Service gate. You can see if I zoom in down here, Forest Service. I'll talk a little bit more about that. At least that's what I'm hearing. And based on the location of the gate, it should be Forest Service. I'll talk more about if you are interested in applying for easements through Forest Service on a different access route. There is something called the Wilderness Act. You can Google that. Supposedly Forest Service is supposed to, work with landowners to allow reasonable access to their properties. So there's a lot of different avenues you can take to potentially access this property. I'm going to dive into that in the video. I do want to touch on a disclaimer. I start all my videos with this. This isn't legal advice. This is not real estate advice. This is me simply sharing my opinion of the property through all the research I've done, my time and experience in the industry, and just, like I said, from my experience. And so let's dive into this property. So number one, the biggest selling point is location. I talked about it to start the video. This is a world-class location here in the Judith Gap Range, or it's in the Big Snowy Wilderness, literally a mile or two behind your property. It's not that far of a hike. Crystal Lake is back there. This is a really cool under the radar campground and area. You can see by the topography, this is just a really cool area. There's ice caves and whatnot back here as well. I think one of these images even shows it. So if I can find those ice caves, I'll show them to you. But yeah, you've got waterfalls, you've got ice caves back here. Like I said, it's really a one-of-a-kind location and some really world-class elk hunting. A big selling point of this property is that this is Crystal Lake Road. There's no zoning, so you're really going to be there's going to be a lot of potential land use that's allowed with it. You've got Timber Creek running back here, some good fly fishing. So again, when we talk about a recreational mecca for people to own land in Montana and have their own little recreational hub, whether you're storing storage containers with fly rods, UTVs, ATVs, whatever it may be, this is a really cool place to call your own in Montana. So looking at the satellite imagery here, you can see a lot of our property is going to be open, ready to use. You don't need to pull a bunch of trees down to use your property. This is open range, ready to use. So you can see you've got a lot of privacy on all sides of you. There's a few neighbors out here. This guy's got a yurt going. That's actually the neighbor I've talked to. Again, it's not legal advice. You as a buyer need to conduct your own due diligence and make sure the property is the right fit for you. We're sharing what we know about it. This landowner's owned his property for a long time. I think he's got a business in Judith Gap. It's UTV, ATV access to these properties. There's an easement. Basically, you can go through other people's properties as part of Big Snowy's estates from what do we understand. Obviously, it's a gray area when we talk about access. People haven't been using these properties for a long time. And if they have, it's just been handshake deals, them going back there, really no regulation or issues with it, right? So, I'll dive more into that. I do have easement documents. So, just going straight into access, like we know this location is world-class. I'll pull it up on a map to show you where we're located here just before we get into talking about access, but this location is world-class. You're not going to find 10-acre properties priced where we're at. We've got a little bit of a gray area around access priced with this in mind. I'm going to share some easement documentation. I'm going to also talk about a backstory in the video about access and talk about where you would like the potential access routes to go back here. But you're right at the base of this mountain range. If I pull it up on Onyx Maps, for example, you can see in your backyard, I've got the property. I'll pull it up here. Again, for people who want to view property like this, I'm assuming you know how to use an app like this. You're going to use the GPS coordinates and you're going to plug these in to go view. We're adjacent to Lewis and Clark National Forest, and to the north here is the Big Snowy Wilderness in the study, and Lewis and Clark National Forest. So this is a Big Snowy Wilderness area, 90,000 acres. Then you've got Lewis and Clark National Forest, another 83,000 acres. So, um, looking here, right, you've got springs, you've got creeks, you've got Crystal Lake up here. These are all hiking trails. If I click here, Grandview Trail, it's 5.5 miles. There's actually hiking trails that start. Here's our property that we own, this Hodgins property, that we bought it from Hodgins. And you can see there's a hiking trail right here on this Neal Connection Road. This is a road here, the Neal Connection, and that will take you over to the West Fork Blake Creek here. That'll take you to Neal Creek. That's a 2.5 mile hike. That'll bring you up to the ice caves. So that's kind of cool, right? These are scenic ice caves up here. That's what I was talking about to start the video. So you can see there's some hiking trails back here that'll take you along the ridgeline and things like that. So I want to talk about access. So like I said, we've talked to one of the neighbors. In the old days, people would drive pickup trucks back here. Nowadays, Forest Service has put up signs and gates basically. So in here somewhere, there's a gate, I believe, or there's a sign, excuse me. There's no gate, but there's a sign that says UTV or ATV access only. So that's what they're allowing. They're allowing ATVs and UTVs back here on Neal Creek Road. So the most logical access route is going to be coming up to Neal Creek Road right here. And basically this one neighbor, I think, shoots down. It looks like this person's shooting through these two properties and getting over here. One of these neighbors, this is everything I've heard through the grapevine. One of these neighbors has a handshake deal with this Michael Hossman, who's like some famous actor in Hollywood. Google his name and you'll learn more about it. Broadway in New York. So, it's some actor. I guess there's a handshake deal with this McDonald owner and that guy. I don't know what you're going to accomplish there, but there's a gate down here, it looks like, or it's a cattle guard, actually. I want to say, I don't know who put it in. One of the neighbors said Forest Service, but it sure looks like it's on private property. So that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Getting back to the Neal Connection Road here, this is going to be your access route in, and you're going to shoot north. Here's your hiking trail. You can park here. Obviously, people are accessing that. You can see a 2-track there. This Neal Connection shoots down. You can even see that 2-track right there. But you're just going to find a way on your ATV or UTV to kind of romp through this forest. You're going to go down through here. It's going to get into a clearing, and you can even see a 2-track though. So this road is being driven. Like you can see there's a 2-track down here. So, somehow you can get through Forest Service on an ATV or UTV or even hike in. Worst case scenario, you're basically hiking in from this Neal Connection Road, which isn't that far, right down to here. That's 600 yards. That's 6 football fields, not even. That's not a big deal. Go walk through there, and you can access your property right here. So that's a worst case scenario. Maybe you can drive a UTV. Maybe there's little trails back here. It looks like there are little trails that maybe shoot out right down here, if you can see that. And that would bring you in again to the corner of your property right here. So access route number 1 is from the north. That's going to be your route that way, coming in through Forest Service. Again, there's a Wilderness Act. Wilderness Act, basically, you can, and I won't Google it right now, but just Google it. It's called the Wilderness Act, and Forest Service will potentially work with you to develop an access road to your property. Obviously, there's no guarantee on that, but you as a buyer are going to have to do that homework. We have the property priced at probably 50% of market value. If we had put the road in, this is a $150,000 property, So with the road into the property, it's there. Otherwise, you have a really private 10-acre Montana escape. You can always hike into it. It's only about 600 yards off the Neal Connection Road, which is a Forest Service road, and you've got access to one of the country's coolest playgrounds in your backyard and some really cool elk hunting. You can also take horseback in. So just an FYI, you can pack in materials on donkeys or horseback. So I've seen wilderness guides do that, access really special remote areas on horseback and pack in materials. That's also an option, right? Finding a way to pack in and pack out with horses. So that's an option as well for access. And when we're talking about a pretty cool property like this in a mountain range like this, that's not uncommon for people to do that with these type of properties. The other access route is going to be from the south. So you can get on this Yapple Bench Road. This is an existing road right up here. You can see it takes you all the way up to basically Forest Service. And then there's a gate. If you zoom in on Forest Service, that gate is somewhere on Forest Service land, I believe. I found it before. I think it's right here. Yep, there's a gate right here. That's a gate we looked at in the photos. So I'm showing you that here. It's off Neal Ridge Road. So that road we were talking about from the north, actually this Neal connection eventually shoots down here, and you've got this like Neal Ridge Road that comes through here. You can see it winding through Forest Service. I actually think this is a better access route coming in from the south. You can see like there's openings and remnants of a road. Do you see that? I mean, it's a trail. It's an ATV trail coming through, and it's marked on Onyx, this Neal Ridge Road through Lewis and Clark National Forest. Then you've got Ice Cave Road going this way, right? So there is a gate here. You'll have to work with Forest Service on getting access through it or go around it. But this is another potential access route to your property, because if this route flies, I suppose you can get right up to, your property here, Hodgkins here. So I don't know. That's a potential route too. I'm not going to guarantee anything on access. I do want to show you. I do have information on access here. So here's a survey, certificate of survey. You can see there's 12 properties. You can see all that on a map here. See all those 12 properties outlined. You can see all those are part of Snowy Mountain Estates. And if you read through this language, we own, I believe, lot number 8. It's this one, the furthest south one, lot number 8. And there's a bunch of language. We have tract 8 right here. Again, I'm not going to insure it. This is all really old language, but there's an ingress egress. So there's an easement for the right of way for ingress egress to and for the benefit of said land. Said lands are lands. All 12 of these properties have the same easement language. There's an ingress egress. There's basically an easement for a right of way. Said easement shall follow the established existing roads and roads which may be constructed across any portions or said lands owned by the grantor or its successors in interest. So basically new access construction across said tract is limited to approval of the party of the second part. So you might have to talk to your neighbors about putting roads in through their properties. I'm not a surveyor. I'm not an attorney. I can't decipher this for you, but this is all really positive information. We buy and sell a lot of properties that are truly landlocked with no access, no easement language, and people hike into those, people pack into those, they cross Forest Service, they work with BLM or Forest Service to get access. This property actually has a little bit of a history of having access documents. We've talked to one of the neighbors. It sounds pretty laid back there, So that's the history lesson on the property. That's the background around access. I'm not going to insure anything. I'm not going to guarantee anything, but the reality is you'll always be able to hike into your property from the north end coming through here. And it's about a 600-yard hike off that Neal Connection Road. Right now, ATVs and UTVs are allowed. You can bring horseback materials into your property. It's a cool property for off-grid cabins, hunting escape, for camping, building yurts back there, building tiny homes. So it's that type of property that's going to offer extreme privacy, amazing recreational opportunities in your backyard. And quite frankly, it's probably one of the coolest and most affordable 10-acre tracts in the state of Montana. Get on Zillow and tell me if you can find something in this price range in this price range, in this cool of an area. I understand access isn't perfect, but at the price you're paying, you're not going to get perfect access. If it was perfect, it's worth 2 to 3 times as much, And so, what's your budget? How deep are your pockets? Are you willing to hike into a property? Are you willing to take on, this property that's going to require some time and energy, and some boots in the ground to really develop it up and make it work? Maybe talking to some neighbors, maybe some handshake deals over time too with the neighbors. So you'll have to execute your own strategy to get back to your property. I'm sharing with you what I know about it, a little bit more on the area. Again, if you have questions or want to look at other land deals on our website, I've got more stuff in Montana. I've got stuff in Alaska, Washington, Idaho, South Dakota, across the Western United States and the Mountain West. So just get with me if you have questions. My number here is 605-250-1256. Thanks for tuning in.